as we set the tone, I think we have wonderfully set the tone for the next speaker. Because as we were speaking on mindfulness, health, and from the doctor we are hearing, here comes another doctor with us, and with a very great topic again on don't go away, because that topic is on health and emotions. Now that you have understood, from the morning as to how you should showcase leadership, how you should put it in your sales, how you should be mindful about your emotions, now we are setting tone on you. How should you take care of your health and your emotions?
Mind and body approach while treating patients with unresolved emotional conflicts. Wherever unresolved emotional conflicts are there, she tries to resolve it in the best of the manner. Unfulfilled desires and anxious personality among all age groups. So she brings in, the desires to the people to be fulfilled. Very anxious people become very normal, and she is very closely associated to a large number of surgeons, physicians, and an inspired resilience and optimism as a coping strategy in healthcare. Subha is, I know her personally as well. Her husband is a scientist, and her son, Nishant, is a very famous musician known across the globe as well. So over to Subha, Dr. Subha Madhusudan. Thank you so much for accepting the invite, and over to you. All the best.
Am I audible?
Yes, Dr. Subha, you're audible.
Yeah. And let me thank you all on the outset for inviting me to this wonderful video conferencing. And from morning, I've been enjoying every minute of it. And I want to give a special thanks to Dr. Saroj Dubey for being a humane and empathic surgeon and gastroenterologist. And most of my referrals are from gastroenterology. Dr. Dubey must be knowing Dr. Ashish Shah and other surgeons back here in Fortis. So I thank Annapurna for this wonderful initiative, which is most needed, and also to Mr. Sharma for introducing me to this wonderful august audience. I know you're all experienced, you have been there, done it, and I'm just carrying a small bit of my spices to the Oriental. So kindly bear with me if in case I'm wrong somewhere. And definitely, so from where does the emotions emerge? And I will quickly take you through my little expertise that I have gained over last 20 years of treating people with psychosomatic illness. So my introduction to psychosomatic illness comes from the fact that children, when they refuse to go to school, it's called separation anxiety. And when children refuse to go to school, many mothers would come to me and ask me to treat those children. At that particular point of time, I realized that either the maternal anxiety or the paternal anxiety was causing the child not to go to school rather than the child himself. So all our emotions are coming from the family where we live in, and hence it is very important for us to understand emotions as also an energy which comes from the family level. So Dr. Dubey has already brought in wonderful quotes from across the globe, psychiatrists who have been using mindfulness, and it's my wonderful pleasure to take you through this initiative. And also my own experience with my sister who had a cardiac surgery, how my mother used to feel very anxious treating my sister. So my sister became fearful, afraid to speak, probably even to write in the exam. And most of the time, it was the maternal and paternal, my own parents, how they treated my sister, because she had an open heart surgery in Yale New Haven Hospital back in 1979. And today, of course, she has bloomed into a wonderful woman with a child of 17-year-old. And back then, she had lot of problems when she had to go to school. So children going to school, and many children come to me with constipation, constant spots of urination, and their undergarments being smelly, and a few children who are stammering, and there is no speech therapy required, but they are stammering because of high anxious levels. So this is how my journey into psychosomatic field began, and going behind, like Arthur Conan Doyle, how he speaks about his role as a Sherlock Holmes novel. So it is like a CBI investigation. What is prompting the child to behave? Because body conveys what the mind cannot. When body conveys what the mind cannot, we cannot treat the body, although children and parents would love to believe. First, they go to the gastroenterologist, or they may go to a ophthalmologist because eyes are not working properly, and suddenly you hear something, and then the child is not able to hear, or hearing something else. So whether it is psychosis, or whether it is an organ function, or a system function, or a behavioral disorder, there are 100 things to look into. And being a psychologist, it's a full-time job, and there is no you can relax with every family, because it's like psychosurgery, and we have to be there, give our full time to the clients whom we meet, and it cannot be over in half an hour or 15 minutes kind of a interaction with the client family. So with this, let me take you on to the first slide. So in my first slide, I'm giving the quotation from Hippocrates, the father of medicine, and he says, before you heal someone, ask him if he is willing to give up the things that made him sick. So what make us sick is basically what drives our behavior. So when we are healing, the word health comes from the word heal, and it's not just about emotions. How emotions as an energy, is created with the events, interactions in our life, and that holding back in the nervous system, body as a memory, we don't look at body as a memory. So these are the healing process that will make a man sick. The second slide, if you look at it closely, these are the psychosocial factors which are producing emotions. Death of a loved one. Many a time, I have received clients, one client who lost his close relative in 1980. This person, when he saw the dead body, for the first time as a young man, he was seeing the dead body. And when he saw the dead body, he felt a disconnect between his mind and the body. That means, what is the use of this body? What is the purpose of this life? This man was so wealthy, and today he lies in this helplessness. This is what the thought he received when he looked at the dead body of his loved brother-in-law. So at this particular point of time, death of a loved one can cause existential anxiety. Marital discord will lead to divorce, and this is a very big trauma, because our attachment pattern, emotion as an attachment pattern, are not understood properly by us. Relationship failures also comes because anxiousness, and in anxiousness, the love is mistaken for possessiveness, and the man or the woman want GPRS to be installed probably in every phone, tracking where the husband went or tracking where the children went. So relationship failures can happen because of anxiousness, obsessiveness, and also high possessiveness, where love becomes a suffocating point. Financial burdens, academic failures, job loss, legal implications, rebellious children. Many parents, they ask me, is it my karma? What wrong did I do that my children have become like this? So there is emotion in every happening of our life. The elderly care, the hurrying nature of individual personality nature, perfectionism as a personality, faulty attitude, workaholics who think that work is everything, and when the spouse or children or co-workers are not as enthusiastic as them about work and completing the work, finishing with finesse, then they are irritated. Then lack of common sense, this drives most of the people mad, because what you have to deal is people who do not have common sense. So even such people can have psychosomatic illness. Addictions are unacknowledged emotions. Even our addictions, whether it is PUBG or playing something constantly, being online, every addiction is a midbrain illness, and we have to treat the personality, emotion, the neurochemical changes that happens in the body. So this, I think, is related to all of us, because we have a death of a loved one, marital, unpleasantness we all face, because when two people live in intimate relationship, it's always intimidating. And this is how most of the time emotions are triggered. So the next slide, please. What happens during recollection of these old events? Every new stressful factor can be traced back to our first experience of that particular similar situation, and physiology of the fight or flight response. So the body begins to run away or the fight, or it may freeze. Inability to focus or concentrate is your cognitive response to anxious situation or fearful situation. Tunnel vision, you can think only in one direction, no shades of gray, can also produce also result of the anxiety. Blushing, tightness in the chest, butterflies in the stomach, need to urinate, sweating. These are all physical symptoms of the emotions that you are facing. Dizzy or lightheaded, dry mouth, difficulty breathing or swallowing, heart pounding, nausea, diarrhea, muscle tension, trembling or shakiness. These are the symptoms with which people go to the doctor. Doctor shopping happens because people do not or refuse to believe that these are all driven by emotions alone. Emotions, personality, thought process. So there can be a mood altered, thought disorders, personality disorders, and behavioral disorders which are reinforced over a period of time. And faulty parenting technique, or giving too much of freedom, or controlling, all these factors will turn into these type of bodily illness. So when patients are referred for psychological consultation, most patients do not turn up, because they feel nothing is wrong with them, and everybody feels whatever I'm thinking is right. Because mental health, biological health, social health, and psychological health are all mistaken, are all taken for granted. So if I'm academically scoring like A plus or 90 on 90, and people consider that child also very good at emotions as well, which may not be the case. So many times we see people committing suicide because they did not get 90% and they got 89%. So this is how perception, the personality, the past experiences, the 3P will affect the productivity, positivity, and progress of an individual. When a client is referred to me by a doctor where I work, these people do not want to consult me sometimes in the hospital OPD. They say, ma'am, do you have any other place where nobody sees us coming and meeting you? And I'm the last person sought after, because people for a long time believe that there is something wrong with them, biologically or medically or bodily, but nothing about the mind. Hence, it is very, very difficult for me as a clinician first. But of course, if we have wonderful doctors like Saroj Dubey, then it is my work is half done. So when the referral comes and they ask for something like to treat their mind for mindfulness, or the hurt that can heal and they can get a wonderful health, because when you are diseased, that means you are away from ease. Dis-ease causes disease, because health has to come from the healing which you have not done. Many people wouldn't like to heal, and there is a wonderful book by Carolyn Myss who says when people refuse to heal. You can also refer to placebo effect. Dr. Joe Dispenza writes, you are the placebo, because all our diseases are lying within me. if a company wants to throw me out of the job, then I get sleeplessness. I don't know from where my money is going to come the next month. How am I going to pay the school fee? What am I going to do with my EMI? See, when we lived in the jungle, our biological body was not made to live all these corporate stress. It was rising along with the sunrise, and it was sleeping along with the sunset. So if you read the evolution of the brain, you will understand how our frontal brain, parietal lobe, occipital lobe, temporal lobe, all these are developed over a period of time, and man in the phylogenetic order becomes a unique human being because I am having neocortex. With the neocortex, I learned cooking, I learned the language, and I learned 100 things, and that made me a wonderful human being. But yet, I did not have control over the mind. Hence, behaviorism started. So earlier, men used to think that soul is doing all this magic. When I see a dead man in my dream, they thought that soul had come into my being. So first, psychology lost its soul, then its mind, then its behavior, and now we call it by various methods. Psychology is breathing, psychology is dancing, psychology is painting. Everybody are psychologists, because whatever you practice with passion, you feel you have understood psychology. So psychology is still, I would say, it's not, because it is like an art. Everybody practices in its own unique way. And here am I first explaining to my client the biological, the genetic vulnerabilities, the physical health, how the disability has come, whether the disability is caused by the body itself reacting to the corporate stress or the family stress or the stress coming from any other factor of life, drug effects, and temperament and IQ. Some patients do not have insight to understand all this. So what do you do with them? So the peer factor, the peer pressures, and coping skills, social skills, there are 100 things that we all have to look into before we counsel the clients. That is how even assessment becomes very exhaustive in psychological therapy and practice of logotherapy or DBT or CBT, whatever you want to do. You have to choose a particular pathway to treat the patient based upon their insight, their personality, the biological vulnerabilities, social and family circumstances, and their dreams and the dilemmas and many factors. The next slide, please.
Shubha ma'am, I'll just announce one thing because it is a lunch break, but still I will request you to continue, and I'll request all the audience to please have a working lunch because it is a very amazing session. So please continue with your working lunch, and we continue with the session, please. Go ahead, Shubha ma'am.
Okay, I'll try to quickly complete so
no
that
problem, please do it, ma'am.
We have time.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. So next slide, please. So what is then health? Health has to be holistically understood as comprising of 4 dimensions: mind, that is thoughts, and the consciousness, which I have understood. Body as a system has genetics, your systems, sense organs comprise of body system. So whenever thought alter, whether it is emotion, it's not just emotion, there can be a thought behind it. And your intellect, the intellect is defined as man's ability to quickly adapt to a new surrounding. When we refuse to adapt, that means you are refusing some changes within you, and you're expecting the external environment to change, which does not happen. Then you are under extreme stress, and that stress leads to fight, flight, freeze response. So intellect is a very, very important component, which I called it as insight. And this intellect first makes us feel, suddenly everybody will not jump into abnormality. First, there is maladjustment. So adjustment and maladjustment and normal and abnormal behavior has to be understood properly. Corona, the pandemic situation, can be considered as to produce situational anxiety and depression. And earlier, if the person was very resilient and now he's not able to adjust to the current situation, we have to focus on the intellect of that particular person. And then finally, the energy field. We have the emotional energy, sexual energy, and spiritual energy, which will guide our thoughts, the bodily system, and our intellectual ability. When intellect is taken over by the hormone, like for example, sexual hormone, then the thoughts about sex and addiction to sex and these kind of things can shock a partner in a marriage, and then you have the mismatch of emotions, mismatch of understanding. Body will not cooperate, and people are going towards the divorce. So your knowledge about sexual energy, hardly people speak about it. Knowledge about life and death, Eros and Thanatos, as Sigmund Freud put it, people are not realizing is death is part of life, mind is part of the body. This is the major conflict that I face, because by puberty the body begins to grow, and every seed, even if it is a mango seed or a tulsi seed or any seed for that matter, a basil seed, every seed wants to reproduce. And similarly, when I mature, my reproductive organ system mature by 11, 12, 13 years of age, that is where even emotions like love begin to bloom. And many children are struggling at this particular point of time because suddenly their perspective changes. When you want to reproduce biologically, this is the basic instinct. We are fighting with the instinct, and we are trying to control this sexual energy and emotional energy with spiritual energy, or intellectually, academically we are forcing the children to look, and many a time conflict comes with intellectual ability and sexual energy. So why do people have maximum number of clients I have during Corona is the older lot, that is the geriatric care, or the adolescent children. Parents are unable to handle young adolescents because of that surge of energy that I feel complete with the development of reproductive organ system, and I'm curious about it. And spiritual energy. Spirituality is not just meditation or looking up to God or looking up to something. Spirituality is art, architecture, literature, music. It can be painting, drawing, dancing, wherein your original energy to duplicate is harnessed in a particular way. Okay, so man, with the invention of neocortex, with the development of neocortex, he had to do a lot of things, like say for example, discipline is one factor. So you have the inside you, the primate in you, which wants to do everything, in a slow manner. But there is an office which I have to log in by 10 o'clock, and that is a discipline of the modern culture. And there is a constant war within me because how I want to be instinctually and how I should run with the world. So this is the entire thing. When a patient comes to me, how much of bodily disorder, are all the scanning done, blood test done, urine done. So when we have the test of all the parameters are all normal, but still the patient continues to have stomach pain, headache, narcolepsy, epilepsy, and syncope, partial headache, then tingling sensation in the head, ants crawling in the head, then some noise coming in the tinnitus, in the ears, eyes not able to see properly, the focus is not okay, and ophthalmologist says no, everything is all right, and there is funny pain inside the hollowness of the eyes. This pain also is an emotional pain, and nose block. Then you have passage here wherein you feel choked, heart patients, and breathlessness, hyperventilation. Gastroenterology sends me reflux, GERD, and irritable bowel syndrome, frequent urination, constipation, nausea, vomiting, and how liver, every other system in the body is cooperating with your emotional attack which you have created within you, and they produce conditions which says, look, you need attention. Every illness is an indication that you need rest, not just the physical rest. Even your mind has to rest with the thoughts, and you have to stop overthinking many a time. Then you have musculoskeletal pain, then rheumatoid arthritis, unexplained pain at the back, and what else? Like, I think I have named it all. So when you put your foot down, there is some kind of sensation, shock, electrical shock kind of a sensation. All these physical pains are coming from different emotional conflicts which people are not ready to let go. The next slide, please. So what can be done next for all these things? So one, thorough understanding of stress response. How much of physiological, how much of biochemical, cognitive, emotional, and behavioral is very, very necessary. So if you listen to the lectures from Robert Sapolsky, Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, he explains beautifully that man lived in the jungle and his life was very simple. As we progressed into this civilization and civilized world, our expectations from each other also changed, and that is where you have cognitive threats. So I am a threat to somebody else, my progress can be a threat to somebody else, and the first response that happens is you begin to breathe quickly, you breathe faster, your heart rate increases, circulation increases, adrenaline, corticosteroid, and epinephrine and non-epinephrine role of neurotransmitters take place, contraction of muscles and constriction of blood vessels. All this continuously, the autonomic nervous system is under stress and the body is not many a time relaxing. So thoughts create these stress responses in us. These are, when are associated with emotions, there are severe reaction, as if the lungs are coming forward, the patient can go into the psychosis level. And this is how a small fear which is necessary for us to protect ourselves will turn into panic, will turn into anxiety, will turn into generalized anxiety disorder. Then it will turn into obsessive compulsive disorder. I cannot meet anyone, social anxiety disorder. Next, some trauma which took place in my childhood, post-traumatic stress disorder. Then we'll have somatization, where body is converting all your emotions into a physical disease. Then you have disassociation. I mean, did I really shout at these people so badly? That kind of aggressive response is marks under disassociation. Falling unconscious is a dissociation response. And finally, you have psychosis, wherein people have to be admitted to the hospital. And most of the time, parents tell me, my son is all right, madam, only sometime he has this schizophrenia. Should I admit him to the hospital? So the lack of knowledge about how body and the system will cooperate with the thought, emotion, the behavior, and the personality is a rare secret, and it requires a lot of patience to understand. Next slide, please.
Ma'am, we are running little on time, so maybe another 5 minutes.
Yes, I can conclude. You can just run through the slides. So I've shown the body systems here, that each part of the body is affected. Next. So emotions are energy in motion. So what is emotion? E is energy, motion is something that is moving. So emotions are a biological states because it percolates till your atomic level, or it percolates to your inner core system. So it is nervous system, thoughts, feeling, behavior, and pleasure and displeasure. And hence, there is no scientific consensus on what the definition of emotion could be, because it involves all these factors. Next. So the role of neurotransmitters that I just told you, you can check it with Dr. Robert Sapolsky's lecture, how dopamine is important for alertness, norepinephrine for focus, serotonin for well-being. So whenever you're stressed, probably Certa will be administered to you. Not that you have a psychiatric illness, to improve the serotonin level in the body, because each time you overrun or your emotions, there is depletion of neurotransmitters in the body. Next slide, please. So just complimentary slide to what Dr. Saroj Dubey told you, how amygdala fools you. Our brain, you know, next slide. Amygdala is the center for controlling. So Viktor Frankl, even Dr. Saroj Dubey mentioned. So you have three basic folders in your brain: the power, the comfort zone, and loss of love. So people with lot of money are powerful. If this is the belief system, and whenever you meet people with lot of money, you may think they are filthy, earning money is bad, and money is not the way, you know, in life. So this is how your belief system, which is stored in your brain, will create fear response. So the fight or flight comes with your association with the power. Next, comfort zone, what you were comfortable with. If you were very comfortable with some type of food or some type of bed and some type of, how did you draw that comfort? You know, where did you feel safe? The second folder, based.
Dr. Shubha is facing some connectivity issues.
Of the woman in the family is emphasized, because biologically, when we miss the love of the mother, the bodily touch, the breastfeeding, the immunity system, everything is associated with emotional aspects. The next slide, please. So anyway, I have taken three emotions: anger, anxiety, and attachment. Your belief system changes the biological orchestra in your body, and your behavior changes along with it. If you want a behavioral change, you need to change your belief system about power, comfort zone, and loss of love, as identified by Viktor Frankl, because this is a very, very important folder which is there in our hard disk, and brain as the hardware and the thoughts as the software complement our emotions and health. So if you are anxious, the negativity that comes within, then how the breathing technique will help. Now the breathing technique is, you first inhale and then you exhale. You exhale. You do pranayama or whatever. There are 23 types of breathing technique. But what the anxious people, fearful people should do is first remove the air from their belly. Then body will automatically inhale enough oxygen. So whenever we are trying to do meditation and breathing, we actually increase the anxiousness, because we increase the tingling sensation, and many people don't like breathing technique because this is increasing your anxiety biologically. So there is excessive oxygen due to increased breathing, and this will cause a low level of carbon dioxide in the body, altering the pH value, and that will create digestive acidosis and respiratory alkalosis. When these two happen, that breathlessness, the digestive system and the respiratory system as a survival mechanism plays an important role in our well-being. And this is how, whenever we see a cognitive threat, oh, my boss is coming, I've not yet done the PowerPoint, he's such a head shrink, you know, he's going to talk wild, he's going to say something. So now what am I going to do? So these kind of things will increase the oxygen level in your body, and you continue to meditate and inhale more oxygen. And as Dr. Saroj Dubey rightly marked, that these chemical changes last a little bit, but we recreate, and again we recreate it through breathing technique by altering the biological orchestra, and hence the human being takes long time to come out of the emotion. So if at all you want to quickly work on your anxious child, anxious spouse, anxious co-worker, you ask him to breathe out well. Even homeopathy teaches that those who have chest diseases like allergy and asthma, they want more from the world, so they suck more and give less. This is the theory behind asthmatic people in homeopathy. So the first thing that they also teach is breathe out, then body automatically will pick up the oxygen level. So I have just given a few more slides which you can, which is like self-help. I've just spoken about the anger. Anger can be triggered by anxiety, but not having the attachment pattern. And in case you want to know about your emotions, you must go to a psychiatrist or a psychologist who will teach you about the proper attachment pattern, assess the attachment pattern. From there, you have your personality building up. Through the personality, you have various other normality and abnormality, your perceptual differences because of anxiousness, and also how you manage the whole thing. When you are given a task and you're asked to finish in a particular point of time, how relaxed are you or how stressed are you, how emotional are you about it, will all be decided by your body's biological orchestra, your faulty breathing technique, and the information that you have, and the kind of colleagues that you have, and how you have your own inner source of happiness. One CEO told me, I'm not going to motivate all my employees. They have to be self-driven. So what are you going to do with them? So this is the approach. Each CEO has his own approach, and emotions cannot be defined so easily because all of us are unique mutations, and we have to understand each person in a unique manner. And they say birds, once they get into a cage, think flying is an illness. Finally, we need emotional freedom by understanding our power, our comfort, our loss of, how we react to loss of love. With these little words, I close my discussion, and I hope I made some difference to the thought process. Listeners are so rich already.
Absolutely, ma'am. Absolutely. Definitely. You have given a lot. And okay, I will take some 2-3 questions, ma'am, if you're okay. I know that we are in the lunch time, but that is okay, not a problem. How to handle a type of person who is into a lot of different mindsets and things like that?
How we can, okay, I'll give an universal answer.
Yes,
which can be closed in half a minute. Okay, so one thing is, first, when a patient comes with whatever complexity of the nature, see, you must understand that some children are born with congenital anxiety. That means by birth, they have this kind of excessive fear in their self. So these people have to be made understood first what is their mental state. Then we have to get them awareness about what is mental stress, mental health, then mental clarity, then we will have mental illness. So there is a process. First study the mental state, then study the thoughts, then study the behavior, then study the personality. So accordingly, when you study behavior, you have conduct disorder. When you study personality, you have personality disorder. Then when you study the thoughts, which is tunnel thinking, no other options are catastrophic thinking. These people with thought disorder, thought process, have high attachment to their thoughts. It's like they hold on to their thoughts like a pet and they don't let go. So then the emotional complexity increases because we try to alter their behavior. Say, for example, husband, certainly believes that his wife is chatting with someone. I say, no, doctor, no, sir, she's not chatting with anyone. She's a doctor and there has to be a time for her to take the calls or chat with someone. He says, no, he doubts her. So his thoughts are so sure about his wife, and we cannot alter the thoughts all of a sudden, and his behavior will be doubting. So for this OCD particularly, he has to go on medication, which he refuses to. So these are all the complexities which are there because his mental state is always under fear, and his thoughts are like, okay, she's doing something wrong, and his behavior will be like doubting. His personality will be like obsessive compulsive personality. So how to see, this is how you have to move: mental state, thought process, behavior, personality. And if they don't agree for a particular medication, then this is how marriages will go for divorce. And this is how you have a tough employee in the organization. They're not flexible. They believe their thoughts very, it's very intimate. What they believe is very intimate. So that's why belief system will change our biological orchestra, and biological orchestra drives the behavior. Sometimes behavior changes the biological orchestra, but it is all, both biological orchestra and behavior are in tune with the belief system. How to see ambitions with GAD issues. So when you look at ambition, we have to look at your ambition as a personality. Highly ambitious people with anxiety, they kind of stop themselves from achieving. So they go in a perfectionist way, and they want to avoid all the dangers possible. So they calculate a lot. If you are ambitious and also anxious, then emotion is never a single emotion. It always comes with a combination. That is why it is very difficult for normal people to become counselors. And unless you see the attachment pattern along with your ambition and anxiousness. Intelligence with anxiety is a waste of time. Empathy with anxiousness is a waste of time again. So you don't know how to create resources, and you want to go in a perfect way, no faults will be taken by you, then without risk, how will you achieve? That is why ambition must always be, if ambitious people are having GAD issues, I look at their anxiety. I had a patient who went to the concert and his ears are ringing since then. This is a very favorite question I receive everywhere. And that can be due to so many reasons, which I can't answer here. This confirms
what
how
we will
brain,
do, ma'am,
gut, heart, and all.
We'll take all the questions and send it across to you. I know Dr. Shubha is very, very accessible and very, very humble. So please, she stays in Bangalore, but she's having her contacts. Connect her on LinkedIn, connect her also on her this one. She comes on Durvani and things like that. So a lot of things she writes and all. Please follow her, and definitely, I think you should all be connected to get your answers, because it is not easy to share every nuances of the subject in the given time. I'm sure that she has done the best to the her abilities right now. Thank you, Shubha ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Shubha Madhusudan, for sharing your insights.
No problem. You can call me Shubha. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
And thank you, Annapurna, for this wonderful initiative. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. So from Emotionetics and MEQ, we are just sharing a certification of appreciation to you for sharing your beautiful insights. And I know all our speakers are wanting to listen more, and we also planted a tree on your behalf from our sponsor GAPS Digital Solutions. They have sponsored this. We have planted it in Karnataka. We'll be sending this also to you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. Wonderful.